everybody, and welcome to the RFP Success Show. I am your host, Lisa Rehurick, founder and CEO of the RFP Success Company and industry authority on RFP success. And today we have with us Bruce Farrell, who is a business communications and development professional with a real passion for design. So he actually specializes in bringing strong design principles and to proposals and presentations. Well, that's a tongue twister. But he's got over 20 years of experience in the field. And for the last 14, he's been working as a proposal manager for the management consulting practice of Plant Moran. And he, in that capacity, really helps develop winning proposals and presentation materials. So we're really excited to have you here with us, Bruce, today to talk about your successes and your strategies for success over the past 20 years. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just kick it off by having you tell us a little bit about your background and what it is that you do.
Well, I'm a proposal director for Plant Moran. I have a team that works on proposals and other pursuit-related activities for our IT consulting practice, our cybersecurity, most of the geek stuff is what I would say. I get into management consulting and some other areas as well, but my team is primarily focused on the geek stuff. I was actually hired into this job specifically because I have a background in IT. I was an IT manager for a while. We were looking for somebody who could, they were looking for somebody who could write proposals, but also understood enough technical language and concepts to not get lost in them. Because when I started, this was literally a pilot. Nobody had ever written proposals for this company before.
Oh, wow.
They weren't sure if anybody would use me because I was like a contractor, like putting my sign out kind of thing. And I think it was 1,000-hour cap or 6 months, or maybe it was 500 hours or 6 months.
Interesting.
And we were blowing through hours like right out of the gate because there was such a big need for it.
Wow.
So we extended that contract for I think a year, and then after that I was just, hey, can we just make this full time? Because I was contracting at the time. Prior to that, I've got kind of a weird career that has taken me into different places, starting with actually before college. But my first like business proposal-y kind of area was the last company I worked for was a fleet management company. And I basically assumed all business development, all communication related business development activities. So I wrote our website.
Oh, wow.
We had a business proposal. I was writing the business proposals. And at the same time, I was getting interested in design and really reading voraciously everything I could about the topic, because I don't have a background in design. I've never even had a computer class.
Wow.
So all those things culminated to me working on these big RFPs to OEMs, which are the automakers and their tier 1 suppliers, which are big. They're government-y, for lack of a better term. And so when Plant Moran was looking for somebody with this kind of skill set, I just kind of had what they were looking for. So that's what I do.
Cool. So in the role that you're in now, do you manage the proposals as a whole, or do you focus on just the graphics side of things?
That's interesting. I don't actually work on proposals very much anymore because I have a team that does that. When I started, I was one-stop shop, just me, soup to nuts, everything. And over the years, I just don't have the capacity because we've grown.
Yeah.
Which is in part, I think I have a part in that. But
for sure,
as we grew, it became evident that, yeah, I can't do this alone. So we started hiring people to coordinate that process. So typically the way my team works is they will, I have a team of people who will coordinate the proposal activities and work with our subject matter experts to make sure that we deliver a response. And I might get involved with strategy. I might get involved with, tough questions. The bid, no bid decision, I'm usually involved with in some capacity with some teams, kind of depends. And then I'm much more interested in our content. And in that area, I'm kind of my team's graphic person, even though I'm the boss.
Yeah.
But it's something that I really like to do, and I like to get my hands in it. My team isn't so big that I can't do that kind of stuff. So
how many on your team?
That way.
How many did you say? I don't know if you said that, but
I think it's depending on how you count them, probably 6, 7.
nice. Wow. So I love that you have so much experience and that you kind of started, because that's kind of where I started too, is somebody said, hey, we think we need a proposal person here. Let's, kind of toss this at you and then you build it. Now that company's got a team of 6 or 8 people as well. And so it's kind of fun to build from the ground up, but it's great to see those successes too. So in all of that, uh, I'm just gonna go straight to one of the questions that I always love to ask people is, what do you think some of the biggest mistakes people make when responding to RFPs?
I don't. Well, I think one of the things that I find is people don't answer the question,
Right?
and
Love that.
there's a few aspects of that. One is you'll answer the question with just an answer without thinking about what kind of needs they have and what kind of outcomes
Mm,
they're looking for. So you just give this boilerplatey kind of answer that kind of answers it, but doesn't really answer what they're getting at. So there's some intuition involved with that. I think the other thing too is sometimes we'll either over answer something or under answer it. There's so often I'll see somebody write like a good question will be, is there any pending litigation that we need to know about that will affect your ability to do this proposal? The answer to that question is no. it's
right.
it's a no.
Or
And
maybe yes, but
you might put
hopefully not
oh yeah,
yes.
maybe yes, but if it's no, then it's no, period. And if you want to put a sentence or two qualifier, you can, but no, that's the answer. But often I'll see people give answers that they're 3 paragraphs long of, we're very proud of our litigation history, but it's like, no, that's not the question. There's some guy just checking a box wanting to know if it's yes or no.
Oh
Oh
my gosh. That is so hilarious because it is one of the things that I always say too is like, oh my gosh, just answer the question, because I
yeah.
review hundreds of RFPs in a year and never ever is there one that that's not a problem in somewhere. And it is. Why do you think that is? Do you think that it's just because we like to pontificate about how great we are, or are we just cutting and pasting some corporate mumbo jumbo in there, or not paying attention? Like, why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's easier to give a stock answer. So
It's
if you
true.
have something on hand, then it's going to be easier. I think there is an aspect of people liking to talk about ourselves. It's one of the things that I fight against. And certainly not won that battle, but that we love to talk about ourselves and how great a firm Plant Moran is. And I get it. I love it. I'm a total Plant Moran slappy. I love it here. Uh, but that's only a small part of your proposal. You want to talk about how you're going to meet their needs. So the
Yeah.
about Plant Moran stuff is relevant only when it's relevant. So if you try to stuff it into every question, it 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 tunes out. It's a little bit like color in a presentation. That's how I think of it.
Oh,
That if you put color on everything in every page, your eye won't know where to look. But if you save it, for the things you really want them to know, want them to see or understand, then your eye will be drawn to it. So if you save that about Plant Moran stuff for when it's the most relevant and leave it at that, then I don't think you need to splash it everywhere, because I think people will just tune it out. Oh, this is just more of that garbage.
yeah, I love that point. And as a matter of fact, I just had a conversation with a client about color, and that's a really great tip. So thank you for that. I also love something else you said about intuition. And when you're answering the question, like it's not just about reading the question and then providing the answer, just a stockpile answer. It is really about thinking about it as a whole in the context of what are they trying to accomplish with this particular question or whatever that is. So that was brilliant as well. Thank you. Hey, we're only 5 minutes in or however long, and I've already called you brilliant twice.
And I am so not brilliant.
Sure you are. Sure you are. So, how many RFPs do you say you and your team respond to on an annual basis, or your team, I guess? Yeah.
It fluctuates, but uh, probably 300 to 400.
Oh, wow. Shoot, that's a lot. That's a lot. I'm kind of in shock over here because that's a lot.
They're but they're not really big. I mean,
Yeah.
and then when I say they're not really big, I mean they're not the big federal kinds where there's a 2-year life cycle. They're more likely to be a 2-week cycle on
Okay.
engagements that range between probably $25,000 and a few million. And how much effort we put into those. A lot of proposals uh, we might build a template for somebody, or put a shell together and let them customize it, so our involvement is less.
Yeah.
um, and then others, it's soup to nuts. If it's a big proposal, we're all in. So if it's things we touch, yeah, it's probably 300-400. If it's things that we're like soup to nuts on, that's a smaller number. That's probably more like 150, 200.
Yeah. I mean, but it's still, you've still got to put effort into it, right? Like there's
Oh yeah.
still that effort. So what would you contribute to, so give us a few things that really contribute to the success of managing your team and managing that many proposals. Like, do you guys have really solid processes and systems in place? Do you do some good team building? I know this is kind of like a question that I didn't tell you ahead of time I was going to ask, so I'm
That's okay.
putting you on the spot, but
The spot's a good place to be.
yep.
um, I think having a good process in place is important. And when we started, we certainly didn't have one. It was, and I don't know that we really needed one when it was just me. It was really more, when am I getting stuff? If I'm going to get it on time or not, which
Yeah.
is an issue. The more you're dealing with, the more that becomes a problem. So the people who work for me are really dedicated project managers. They will be really clear about when they need things from people, and they expect to get them. And if they don't get them when they expect it, then they will reach out and offer general reminders. And if it becomes a problem, then we will draw attention to it. That because it only works if we're getting timely things from our subject matter experts, from our admins, from our partners.
Yeah.
So having that process really helps. And I think the other part of it is making sure that people are trained. And my team's done a pretty good job of training people on what's expected of them, so we can get the information more quickly. And I think we're pretty good about providing information in a pretty timely fashion if the process is in place to drop in, like all the About Plant Moran stuff and all the resumes and references and all that kind of stuff that my team can take care of. It's not automized, but it almost is. It happens very, very quickly. And I have a great admin team that I work with too, who take care of a lot of things that would maybe fall through the cracks if they weren't paying attention.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting. It is kind of the quintessential problem with managing RFP responses when you have to go to your subject matter experts. I have a lot of clients that struggle with that. They just don't get it on time. And, for the audience listening, Bruce and I are both part of APMP, which is Association of Proposal Management Professionals. We just came from Bid and Proposal Con. I don't know how long ago that was now, 2-3 weeks ago. And what one of the speakers said that I loved is that the deadline is not a goal. It's not like something to strive for. It is a deadline, right?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so and you kind of touched on a little bit, but again, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here. Do you have
No,
any tricks for our audience to help them get people to submit on time when they give them a deadline? How can they maybe, what can they maybe do to help them along to get the stuff on time?
I do 2 or 3 things. One is I will make sure if somebody is having trouble meeting a deadline, I will try to offer whatever help that we can.
Yeah.
If we have other subject matter experts who can help chip in, and that's pretty usually the case. I don't have any teams that all of our consulting teams are teams, so there are always more than one person who can chip in
Mm.
on what they're working for. And usually there are only a few things. The way that we are structured, the way that my team's working, is that subject matter experts usually on the hook for the work plan. Because if we're
Yep.
going to do, let's say, an IT assessment or an ERP selection, which are the kind of work we might do, they're going to be responsible for the work plan. They're going to be responsible for any work-related questions that are in the RFP. They're asking, like, how is your team going to manage this aspect of the project, which my team doesn't have the expertise to really know.
Right.
So I will try to limit what they're answering and then try to give them some outs. If it becomes a problem where this happens more than a few times, then I'll bring it to a partner's attention. I'll start CCing. I'll do it anyway. We pretty much always will CC everybody on the team with general reminders and whatnot, and that includes the partner.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
And if I see somebody doing it a lot and nothing seems to be getting done about it, then I'll bring it up with a partner. I don't mind tattling on people because, hey, we got to get this stuff out the door. Um, and that sometimes you'll have a partner who will light a fire under somebody. And then I think another thing that we've done only a couple times, and I haven't done this in a long time, was I had two people specifically who were just chronically late for things. And one of them was the funniest thing because this person was really well planned. She would come out of the gate ready. She'd have a plan. She'd work with me on the schedule. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. Here's when you're going to get it. Here's when you get that. And at the end of it, it was like her hair was on fire because it was just craziness at the end trying to get everything out the door. Her problem was becoming my problem. This is when I was a
Oh,
one-stop shop.
yep.
And the partner that I work with who hired me, to her credit, said, just say no.
Nope.
When the next time she comes to you that way, just say, yeah, I can't help you.
Ooh,
And if it,
interesting.
and 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 I did that with two different people. That one of them wasn't ever a problem again. That person's here to this day, and has never really been a problem since then. The other person left the firm.
Interesting. Way to drive him out there, Bruce.
Well,
I'm just kidding. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, it is so funny how that always just seems to be a problem. And I don't think people are doing it on purpose. It's because they're busy
no,
with other stuff, right? But
no, I get it. I've been I've worked in consulting. I've worked where I was, I juggle hats. I get it.
yeah, yep. So let me ask you this. Do you guys use a software, a database to help manage all your content?
Yeah. We use two. We use Qvidian
Okay.
and we use SharePoint.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
we have two proposal teams at Plant Moran. One
Okay.
is associated with marketing, and they work with most of the firm: audit, tax, assurance, all that kind of stuff. And they use Qvidian probably more than I do, and they use it to compile their proposals and build their shells and all that.
Got it.
I use Qvidian more as a library,
Yeah. Yep.
and
I can see that.
yeah, just because our stuff changes a little more, and it wasn't saving us any time when we tried to do it that way. Um, but a lot of our content we don't keep on Qvidian because we have a limited amount of licenses for it, right?
Uh-huh.
Like our subject matter experts edit their resumes.
Yeah.
They edit. They're the one who put the references. I don't know what they did. Once
Right.
they got there, so they write the references. So we keep that stuff out on SharePoint,
Got it.
and then my team will control it to some degree. Some things they can't edit, but they can send me stuff to drop into that file, for example.
Yep.
So those are the two tools that we use, pretty much.
Cool. Okay, cool. Thank you. All right, so let's talk about mistakes. I always love lessons learned. So, what are some of your biggest mistakes you've made over the year? If you have a story to tell, or I think everybody loves to hear that we all struggle with some of the same things. I'd love to hear some of yours.
Well, I've certainly made a ton of mistakes over the years. I think some of the biggest mistakes I've made have really been just how I work and how I approach, how I look at things. And I think trying to do everything myself was a mistake because I probably did it for too long. There were probably times when I should have been leaning on other people and I didn't. And my boss likes to say she likes to push people towards what she would call the highest and best use of their time.
Mm.
And some of the things I work on, well, certainly now I'm working on a lot more stuff that's highest and best use. But I went through a period of years where I was just working on stuff that I should have been giving to somebody else to do because it was a better use of their time than it was mine. I was doing admin stuff, on
Oh
my own,
yeah.
just because I'd waste time at night fiddling around with that stuff when I could be doing something more productive. We have admins who can do admin kind of stuff and are really good at it. Why am I doing this? So I think I don't know why that is. I don't know what it is about me that's wired to think I can just do everything myself, but I can do things myself, but there are some things that people are better at, and there's some things that I do pretty well, and I should focus on the things that provide
Yeah.
the most value. So I think for years I think I struggled with that. I think the other kind of foundational thing is, and I've worked on this over the years, is thinking that I know the best way. Because whenever you've achieved any level of success, I think you just assume, well, obviously I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And and that's just simply not true, because you can pick any part of proposal, presentation, graphics, anything related to anything that I do, and there are smarter people, guaranteed. There have to be, and learning to listen to them and being open to the idea of changing some of the things that I do has helped a lot. Because for years, I think I didn't get any better. I think I went through a period where everything was just going to be the same. It took a conscious effort to kind of turn that filter off, or and be more open.
Well, and I think too, we get stuck in our ways, and we're busy, and in the proposal world, you're working on deadlines, and it's just easy to keep going and not even notice it. I think that's what happens.
Yeah. I don't know if that's the kind of mistake you're looking for. I mean,
No, it's good.
I can tell you I was really embarrassed once when we showed up for a bid for a school district. In school districts, you have to have a notarized, I can't remember, some form that's notarized. And it's everyone in Michigan, I know that. And
wow.
It was a public bid opening, and I showed up and the form wasn't notarized. And there's only 3 other people around the table, because there's only like 3 people bidding on this. And we have probably a 50-50 chance of getting it, I'm guessing, because I thought we were better than either of those firms.
Yep.
And just to sit there and go, wah, 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 can't take it. And that was on me. I mean, because, we have other people looking at that, but I was the one delivering it. I was the one who needed to make sure that was, on there, and it wasn't. I felt like a complete dork.
Well, I'm pretty sure that there's probably nobody listening right now that hasn't done something like that. I mean, it's especially in the early days, or if you're too, it's really easy to miss one little thing. As a matter of fact, I was just reviewing a proposal that I'm working on, and there was one, we look at it in the front end, and then we review it in the middle, and then at the end we do another requirement suite to make sure we've got everything. There was one little thing that we missed. So, I think that's partially human nature, and that's why you got to have all those reviews in there, right?
Yeah,
have you ever had... Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, and I've had admins who've like missed something small and been all tore up about it. And here's the thing, there's a lot of people looking at this, this isn't just your mistake. It's my mistake. It's, Sham's mistake. It's, I could point to the 10 people who have touched this proposal, and somebody should have caught that. And you didn't, but there's plenty of blame to go around.
Yeah, exactly. Have you ever had a heartbreaking disqualification for something that was missed, deadline missed, and that one, did they let you in, even though it wasn't notarized, or did they disqualify you?
No, we were disqualified.
Oh.
And I was at the table delivering it. Like I said, we have 2 of our competitors sitting there. They weren't snickering, but they might as well have been, because I'm pretty sure we were the front runner in that. And we've since done work with them, and that wasn't the biggest project ever or anything. It was just really embarrassing.
It's horrible. Have you ever missed a deadline because you just didn't get it done on time?
No, I don't think so. But
nice.
No, well, we've missed deadlines because of courier issues, which is maddening. And we try to, give it 2 days rather than like the day before. I'm not one of those people who thinks you need to deliver something like a week before, because sometimes we'll get addendums sometimes a couple days before.
Couple days, I know it. Yeah.
So I hate to do that, but we'll give it 2 days usually. But sometimes somebody will have a problem, and now we're going to deliver it the day before, and probably once every couple of years that comes back to bite us, and that's a little maddening. But it's, I think, the nature of the beast. I don't think you can avoid it unless you're going to hand deliver everything.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some of those happen, and early in my career, we just decided if we're not doing it 2 days in advance, we're sending it 2 ways. So it goes FedEx, it goes UPS, and hopefully one of them will get there. But I'm sure.
And we had one, and I can't remember. It was a college campus one, and somebody had missed the deadline. I can't remember how this all went out, but it was FedEx dropped the ball, and we knew, I can't remember how we knew this, but we knew in advance that they weren't going to be able to make it. So we ended up having somebody, a courier, like a Kinko's or somebody, print it locally, because it was an easy enough one for them to handle.
Nice.
And then hand deliver it. They couldn't find the building.
You know what? College campuses are horrible.
They were on the campus, and we have an admin like trying to get them to the right building, and they missed it by like 10 minutes.
Oh my gosh, that's brutal.
It was crazy.
That's crazy. It's kind of fun to hear stories like that because you just know that, like, thank God we're not the only ones or whatever. But,
No.
at the time it's horrible and you've got all hands on deck and everybody's
Yeah.
running around trying to make it happen. It's the worst feeling in the world. So, kind of going back to the comment you made about some of the mistakes you've made where you said that, kind of doing everything yourself for too long. We do have a lot of small businesses listening where, the owner is the only person or they've only got one person really working on that. What advice would you give them to help them figure out how to break out and not do it themselves?
Um, well, I think figuring out what you do well and what you contribute to the
Mm,
process is important, and then figuring out what kind of things you can trust with other people, outsource, whatever. Um, kind of understanding each part of the process and what you bring to the table and what somebody who may help could bring to the table would be, to me, the first step, because we have a process. And if I were doing this on my own, and I do this on my own once in a while, somebody will, because I have a lot of business contacts, hey, can you help us with this proposal?
yeah.
And in that case, I kind of work my process and know kind of who's going to do what, so that I'm not going to get buried with, in a ton of work, because I have a full-time job.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I think understanding that would be the first step, because some owners would be really good at, uh, they probably know their process, they probably know the kind of things they're going to do, they're going to know the references, but things like production, things like proofreading, those kind of things. Honestly, you should have a proofreader. You can't do that on your own. Well, you can, but I don't know anybody who
No.
proofreads their own stuff particularly well.
Effectively, exactly.
Right. I mean, I can proofread my stuff, but I guarantee you that if it'll be better if I have somebody else who's a decent proofreader do
Yeah.
it, because they'll catch I'm reading my own words, so they they all make sense to me.
Yeah. That's great. So what, kind of on the flip side, we've talked about mistakes, but let's talk about some of your lessons learned. So some of the things that, like, you're really proud of that uh, that make you, oh, and we kind of talked about this at the onset of the call, but I'm going to
Mhm.
revisit it, that make you and your team successful now.
Well, I think having a process, and then having the trust and buy-in of the people that I work with. That
That's
and,
big.
and that took a while. Was Partnerships are kind of odd. The company that I used to work for was a fleet management company, and it was a hierarchical. You had a CEO and you had a director of this, da 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 da. And when we did something, and the CEO said we were going to do it, we did it. When we changed brands, and I kind of oversaw that whole process, developed everything basically, and said, okay, this is the new brand, then everybody was on the new brand and it was all good. When I said, you're going to use this template, those are the templates that people use.
Nice.
Partnership's kind of weird, because it's almost like having 300 small businesses, because every partner
Mm,
kind of runs their own thing. And it's hard to make a partner do anything. So if
true.
they don't want to do it. So the way I came in was, okay, we're going to have Bruce. He's going to be free to, you guys to use to work on proposals. There were some partners who wouldn't work with me at first. They would do their own. And there were some who were comfortable with some things and not with others.
Yeah.
And I've had to take this kind of gradual approach toward getting buy-in from people and trust from people. And I think the fact that I've been a senior manager with another company and I clearly knew IT, I was able to build credibility pretty quickly. Um, but I'm proud of the fact that all happened. Um, that I was able to affect that change kind of throughout ITC, which is internal IT consulting.
Okay.
So I think that was a big thing for me. Um,
Yeah, and it makes sense. It's interesting because I see a lot of different proposal teams and I see the ones that build really great internal relationships. The proposal managers that have those good relationships do so much better, and the other ones that that don't see the value in it, or maybe don't have that same personality, or it's not as comfortable for them and they're much more task managers, that's all good and well, but it's really hard to get things. I mean, I can think about so many times where I called in favors from consultants, or
Yeah.
you're like, hey, remember when I did this for you, or whatever, or just because they like you, and that goes to the trust factor. Like you said, they trusted you, and so they're more willing to do something for somebody that they trust than not. So I think that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. I think everything matters. I think the little things matter.
Yeah.
Every interaction you have with somebody matters. And that all goes to building that level of consistency and trust. And uh, I've kind of leveraged that my whole career, really,
Yeah.
is trying to leverage those relationships with people, because that's what makes, I don't buy this whole, somebody was trying to sell me this whole type A success person that, all your, real leaders are basically jerks. And that just has not been my experience.
Ouch.
And
Right.
yeah, well, there are people who believe that. There are people who think that you
Wow.
need to be like this driven person who will take no prisoners and, not suffer fools and not, just like charge through the world to success. And I don't know that that was ever the case. I've been working for a long time because I'm old, but even when I was young, those people weren't successful particularly. Usually the most successful people I know work really well with other people and
Yeah.
develop and nurture relationships with the people that they work with. And
Agreed.
uh, I believe in that. And that's one part of why I love Plant Moran so much, is that company, this firm is all in on that.
Yeah, I believe that too. One of the things that I hear a lot is like, well, Lisa, you're naturally a people person, or you're naturally extroverted, versus me, I'm really introverted. And I mean, we've got our us extroverts have our own crosses to bear, right? We got our own challenges because we don't ever shut up, or I think would you say that introverts can build just as strong relationships as extroverts? Like, what's
I,
your argument to that?
I'm an introvert. So it is
Interesting.
really, really hard for me uh, to build relationships with people. I'm my first instinct is to close in when I'm in a new group or in a new situation. I can't find a place to hide any more quickly. My wife says I put my like don't mess with me like blinders on, because it's like it's too stressful for me. It's different when I'm on my own turf, and I think I've
Yeah,
developed. I think I've gotten better at that. I think I've gotten better at just pushing through that discomfort and getting to being able to function. Because if left to my instinct, I have like a crippling introvert. Um,
that's so crazy. I would have never guessed that about you, because again, kind of back to APMP. So Bruce is like been around for a while with APMP, and he knows everybody, and he's very well respected and thought of within the organization. And so he knows everybody. So every time I see him, he's like talking to people, or people are coming up to him. So I would have totally pegged you as an extrovert.
and that first APMP conference that I went to was really hard for me, and
Interesting.
I presented and I kind of pushed through it. And once I felt like it was kind of like my own turf in my own way, then it's easy for me. So I'm
That's
kind of a
great.
weird person that way. That in many other ways.
Well, I'm glad that we're talking about this, because I think that there's a lot of people listening that might be introverts that are, can be inspired and motivated by that. Again,
Yeah.
it's not just about, whether it comes naturally to you or not, or whether it's comfortable or not. It's about part of what is going to make you successful, and just building those relationships, like you said.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, do you have a favorite win?
They're all my favorite wins.
Uh,
Um,
right. It's hard to not have them be your favorites, right? A win's a win.
yeah, I mean, and I can think of really big wins that we've had, and I can think of, where, we were breaking kind of new ground, new services into new areas. And those are all well and good. But it's funny, they all kind of wash away. I can remember some losses very specifically, and some of them don't bother me. I mean,
Really?
sometimes well, yeah, we presented to a it was a design college in New York, and we didn't have any expectation. I mean, there was one where I thought, why are we even bidding on this?
Yeah.
Because they're outside of our footprint at that time. Um, and I just figured we were a long shot, but we got shortlisted and they loved us. They just loved
Oh,
us. And the only reason that we lost was because we were a little more expensive and we would have had to travel there. And, so there was that. And there was a local firm who they liked about as much. And sometimes you're going to lose,
yep.
but to come that close and impress somebody who didn't know us from Adam, that's one I'll remember. And that was one that we kind of took some takeaways from, of these are things we should do again. And actually
Yeah.
we ended up repurposing a lot of what we learned from that loss, as kind of treating it as a victory, because we were able to get so far when we didn't expect it, to leverage wins with other universities.
Yeah, I can totally see that. I can see where it's a good loss, right? Like, and sometimes, yeah, I can completely relate to that. And, you put your best foot forward, and it wasn't like, we were just 10 points below in technical, and if we had just said this, and this better, we would have won. Those can be a little bit heartbreaking, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I get it. I've been there.
All right, Bruce. Well, anything else that you want to share with our listeners before we conclude? Anything else that you think they should know to kind of motivate them or keep them moving forward?
Um, I think there's a lot of value in knowing what you do well, and knowing what you do well, knowing what you don't do well, and knowing where you really want to be. Knowing, like, having a
Mhm.
clear path, goal, like your ideal. This is, if I could spend 40 hours a week at work, I would like to do this. And if you understand that, then you can start getting there. And I
Yeah.
don't think a lot of people really think about that much. I think a lot of people think about, um, a lot of people in our field just tend to look in front of them and they see what they're working on. And, they might want a job that pays more money, that has more proposals and more responsibility, but without really thinking much about what it is that they enjoy about their job. Um, and I would say the same thing for one-stop shops.
Yeah.
If proposals are weighing you down, can you outsource the stuff that you don't like about it? Honestly, when I started working at Plant, I was just freelancing, and I was doing pretty well. But I hated getting work. I hated going to get the work, to like find people who might
Right.
need my kind of work. And I wasn't like restricted to proposals. I was doing design work and logos and websites and all kind of a weird mishmash of things. And I
Yeah.
liked doing the creative stuff, but I hated doing the like accounting and all that other stuff.
Yep.
Um, and for me, the logical way to get past that was to find a company who would hire me full time to do the things that I love. And that's what I
Perfect.
did. But I only make that step if I've had that conscious, come to Jesus with myself of, okay, Bruce, what don't you like? What can you weed out? And how can you get rid of that and spend your time at work doing stuff you like? Because then you're going to enjoy work more. I like my job. People complain about their jobs and think that sucks. I don't feel that way. Usually
No,
don't
and
have
you're
much to
always,
say.
yeah, I mean, anytime you're talking about it with me, you've always been really positive. And I think you're right. I think people are, I don't know if it's a fear that people are afraid to just claim what they really want to do. I always tell people, like, write down the things that you really hate. I'm usually, if I'm talking to like a business owner, right, because we have to do everything. We do have to do the accounting and the
Yeah.
marketing and the sales and and the client delivery and all pieces of it. What are the pieces that you really hate? And for me as a business owner, I really hated doing the accounting. So that was the first thing that I outsourced.
Yeah.
But I think that's easier sometimes to identify what we don't like before
Yeah.
we get to what we do like. But I love that advice.
And I think for small bit, this might not be the right story for small business owners, but for me, my life kind of changed around one of my mentors who happened to be my boss at the last place I worked for a while. And we do this self review where you've got to, this is how I'm doing, this is what I'd like to do, and then you hand it to him. And nobody ever gives any thought to those things, and I didn't. I just handed it to him, and 10 minutes later, he walks it back to my desk and he says, you're just telling me what I want to hear.
Oh,
Tell me what you want to do. Tell me where you want to go, because I can't help you get there unless you tell me what it is you want to do.
wow.
And he told it to me at a time when I really needed to hear that. And when I was in a position kind of in my career where it was the right time for me to hear it.
Yeah.
And it changed my life. It changed my career has done nothing but kind of the things that I've wanted to do in the years since. And it's because of that conversation that I had with him.
That's a great lesson for all the leaders out there listening, right? Is
Yeah.
one little kind of conversation you had, which he might not even remember, right? It was, and it's
Probably not.
changed your whole life. I mean,
Yeah.
just that's how impactful like that conversation can be instead of, a lot of what we see with leaders, I think, is their own agenda versus really thinking about the employees. I love that. That's brilliant. So thanks. Awesome, Bruce. All right. So how can people connect with you if they want to learn more, if they just want to get in touch with you? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Well, I'm pretty easy to get hold of. I'm on Twitter and I'm on LinkedIn. So
Okay.
you can message me through that. My work email works too, bruce.farrell@plantmoran.com.
Perfect. And all of that information will be in the show notes for you listeners out there. So, Bruce, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate you being here and sharing all of your brilliance. See, I did say it one more time.
That's so not true.
Uh, I love it. But, I mean, a lot of experience and a lot of less, it's really great, especially for some of our younger listeners or younger in the sense of proposal world, to hear from people that have been around for a while. And I think there's great validation in knowing that we all have some of the same pain points. And, we all learn as we go, and some great lessons learned and tips for them to move forward. So thank you for being here. I greatly appreciate it.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it.
Great, Bruce. All right, everybody, thank you for being here. You have been listening to the RFP Success Show, and we'll catch you next week.